Hi, it's Andile here, and this is the first of a two-part conversation with Christiaan Steyn. He's the head of the South African mobile-first car insurance startup MyWay Blink. Now, MyWay Blink is a division of MyWay Insurance Limited, and the venture was launched during the thick of the ongoing COVID pandemic. Now, in this installment, Christiaan offers context-setting insights about Africa's insurance industry. That's, of course, from his South African vantage point, and he unpacks how the COVID pandemic has presented both challenges and opportunities for the industry to innovate and grow across the continent. But before we get stuck in, thanks to MyWay Blink for sponsoring this two-part series. Their vibe is no paperwork, no long phone calls, just smart tech, great service, and cash back in your pocket. Basically, they're fixing to be the car insurer that lets you have it all. So if you live in South Africa, they'd love for you to put them to the test. Go ahead and download the MyWay Blink app in the Google Play Store or Apple's App Store and request a quote. You can also do that at mywayblink.co.za. That's mywayblink.co.za. Right, here's the episode. Welcome to the African Tech Roundup, Christiaan.
Thank you, Andile.
InsurTech is having a moment in Africa right now, would you say?
Definitely. I think the last year just sped up the evolution that was coming our way in any case.
And so what do you reckon's happened in the last maybe year to 18 months that is precipitating the growth in investment interest we're seeing in the space? And maybe what is that interest matching in terms of what's happening behind the scenes?
I think two things. The one is just how consumer expectations changed when lockdown struck, and that people expected to pay less for car insurance because their cars were parked at home most of the time. And I think the ways in which different insurers reacted on that, that's for me is the one part of it. But I think also just the fact that as a society, we suddenly got used to buying things online, to processes that used to be paper-based that suddenly became online processes. And maybe for consumers who weren't comfortable transacting online, suddenly were almost forced to do so. And I think that also led to a change in behavior and a response from insurance companies and financial services in general.
Can you imagine, the year we're happening without that scenario? Or was this part of the trajectory we were going to experience anyway, perhaps just over a longer period?
I think so. I think it was bound to happen, but I think it would have probably taken longer if it wasn't for COVID.
So let's just talk about the insurance opportunity on the continent in general. Now, MyWay and, of course, MyWay Blink, which you run, are South African businesses. But give someone listening from other parts of the world who don't quite appreciate the dynamics of a largely uninsured African populace a sense of what the scene is here.
So in South Africa, there are different estimates, and it's maybe unfortunate that we don't have one source of the truth, but estimates are that there are between 12 and 14 million cars on our road. And then of those, the numbers range between 45 to 60% of those cars being insured. And so whatever the number is, it means that about half of the vehicles on South Africa's roads are uninsured. So I think there's an education element to it, but also just it gives us a sense of the financial pressure that people are experiencing. What's different in the South African market compared to many other developed countries is that insurance is not a requirement, which it is in many other countries. And secondly, that the fact that we have the road accident fund dealing with injuries and deaths and the financial consequences thereof means that you don't need to take out an insurance policy to be able to access the road accident fund. And to what extent that influences people's decisions, I'm not sure. But the road accident fund, as we all know, also, they're experiencing quite a few issues, and it's not the perfect model at the moment.
So would you say there's definitely a turning point where this is going from a grudge purchase to something people actually see value in and are seeking without the sense of dread?
Yeah, but to a large extent, I think that's our job, is to make insurance transparent, to make it approachable, to present it in a way that people understand it and understand the need for it, and also the details behind it. Insurance is a grudge purchase, or has been, and I think the more value we can give back to clients, and that it's not just a case of I have to take insurance because otherwise I can't get finance for my car. So that's really, I think, where we're playing and where we, putting our resources and our attention is to change that stigma around insurance.
So you've referenced car insurance specifically 3 times already. So let's talk about the different kinds of insurance offerings in the market. Give me a sense in buckets, right? And then give me a sense of the ones you address as a business, and perhaps where the specific value propositions you make as MyWay Blink fit within broader business of MyWay, the insurer.
Sure. So the insurance industry is broadly split between personal lines and commercial lines. So insurance for you and me as an individual versus insurance for a business. So I would say that's the first split. Then in terms of what type of products exist in the insurance landscape, those I would split into motor-related insurance. And I say motor-related because in the commercial space, that could be, it's vehicles, trailers, trucks, earth-moving equipment, etc. But basically anything on wheels. And those policies tend to follow a similar structure. And then there's the non-motor component of it. So that would be your other assets, the contents in your house, the building itself, the items you carry around with you, your laptop, your cell phone, those type of movable items. So first split, personal lines, commercial lines. Second split is kind of motor-related versus non-motor-related products. MyWay as a group offers personal lines and commercial lines insurance, and under personal lines we have all those products that I just mentioned, from motor insurance, contents, homeowners, and all risk.
So before you hit me with MyWay Blink, out of interest, what would you say are the biggest businesses in order of size within that mix?
Motor business, definitely the biggest. Property is much bigger in the commercial space, but in the personal line space, in terms of just premium income, it's much smaller than the motor side of things.
Gotcha. And so MyWay Blink, where does it fit in the scheme of things?
So MyWay Blink is a new division of MyWay Insurance, and we offer 100% online car insurance. So although we're part of MyWay, this is a unique standalone car insurance offering. You can't add MyWay Blink onto an existing MyWay policy. You could ask the question, but why offer, aren't you duplicating efforts here if you sell car insurance in MyWay and now you launch MyWay Blink where you also sell car insurance? And it's really, I suppose, to speak to different market segments. There are people who prefer to speak to someone over the phone. That's how they prefer to run their finances and to make decisions. And then there's a younger generation, the millennials, the Gen Zs, who prefers to do things online when it suits them, when it's convenient to them. They actually don't like speaking to a call center at all. And that's really the reason behind us starting MyWay Blink, is to say, well, let's do digital. And this is a full digital car insurance offering, but there is still the existing MyWay car insurance for those that do prefer to speak to a human. It really caters for different needs.
Did you get a bunch of actuaries to crunch the numbers on this unique market segment that needed a specific offering delivered to them this way, costed uniquely for this platform?
No, it's definitely a unique pricing model. The whole business model is different. We run this on a much leaner team because a lot of it is driven by technology, and therefore the pricing structures are different. What I haven't mentioned is that when we started designing and building MyWay Blink was last year in 2020, and at the same time suddenly we had lockdown and everyone was stuck at home. So it gave us a great opportunity to say, well, while we're busy designing this product, let's design it and build something that is relevant right now. And therefore, we offer clients up to 50% of their premiums back in cash. We call it the cashback feature. And basically how that works is in the MyWay Blink app, we track your trips in the background. So by the end of the month, we know how far you drove. And the less you drove, the more cashback we can give you. And it's not a marketing gimmick. It's really, the less you drive, the lower our exposure, the lower our risk. And therefore, we now have a mechanism to say, well, you only drove 500 kilometers last month. If we knew that up front, we would have given you a lower premium. So now it almost gives us a mechanism to adjust your premium every month based on how far you drove. We don't penalize anyone for driving more than 2,500 kilometers, but anything you drive less than 2,500 kilometers, you would get a portion of your premium paid back into your bank account.
You guys are sitting in COVID, wondering when it's going to end like everyone else. And this idea is born. So I want a clear sense of who you had in mind when you made it. There's a partial answer to that question, which you've given already, which is anyone with a car who needed insurance and was starting to feel some kind of way about paying a premium for a car that's sitting there parked when there's hardly any risk being incurred through travel.
So yes, that's the vague answer is anyone who needs car insurance. But I think who we're targeting specifically is really the 20 to 35-year-old market. And that's not defined. I mean, it's not as if we're going to not, allow a 45 or even a 65-year-old to use the product. But I think just the behavior of the millennial and Gen Z market, the preference to do things online, to have that convenience of doing it whenever it suits them. Someone took out a policy from us the other day at 2 a.m. in the morning. And for that person, that's when he had time. So it's really that younger market. I think it's also a market that they're comfortable doing things online and not necessarily requiring a human on the other side to make sure that this is actually real. And I think in the past, maybe 10, 15 years ago, there's been telematics-based products in the market. Different insurers have toyed around with it. And I think there was a sense of big brother at some point that, I don't want my insurer to track my trips or to know where I am. But I think that's changed to a large extent. People, advertise their lives all over social media without thinking twice about it. And I think as long as the benefit for you as a consumer is significant, then you don't mind sharing that information with us. And in this case, we use that information to determine how much money you can get back as the one big reason. And the other one is we use that same technology, the telematics data generated by our app, to pick up when you were in a car accident. And if the algorithm picks up that you were in a car accident, that sends a crash alert to our emergency call center, and they'll make contact with you immediately to find out how they can assist. So getting cash back plus that safety angle, people are comfortable to say, well, if that's the case, then I'm happy to share my whereabouts with you.
Do you have a sense that the people you serve with these products have a grasp on the bigger data play behind this digital insurtech trend?
It's actually more transparent now than what a paper-based agreement might have been, where that could be hidden somewhere in the T's and C's. I think in this case, you're on the app, and just like any other app, those permissions pop up to say, do you allow this app to track your motion and fitness, to link to your Bluetooth, to track your GPS and so on. So I think it's right there. You can't really miss it. We've also we wanted to make sure that we're transparent about it. So there's a whole FAQ section in the app to explain exactly what we'll use this data for, what type of data we collect, etc.
I remember a time when MyWay was definitely like the challenger, the minnow in a very crowded, very well-resourced legacy field in South African insurance. And now you guys feel like a heavy in your own right. Where do you fit in the scheme of things as far as insurers in your class in South Africa? Are you like a top 5, top 10 at the moment?
MyWay is owned by Santam, which is the biggest short-term insurer in South Africa. So
Right.
if you look at any industry stats, you wouldn't really find MyWay on the list because our numbers are included and absorbed into the bigger Santam. In terms
Right.
of the direct insurers, meaning it's not an intermediated business, it's not a traditional broker distribution model. We're definitely one of the bigger direct players. And I think, you mentioned MyWay was the new kid on the block a few years ago, and MyWay turned 13 years old this year.
Oh, my word. How old am I?
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, I've been here for 11 of those 13. So even though we were the new kids on the block and seen to be, one of the more innovative, newer players, time goes on and we can't stand still. And I think that's why MyWay Blink was born as this almost insurtech within an established insurance company. And it's, I suppose, part of our evolution of keep evolving and don't get stuck and think that the model that brought you here is going to take you there for the next 13 years.
And at which point did Santam acquire MyWay, or was it always an internal project?
Santam was one of a few shareholders right in the beginning. And at some point, they bought out the other shareholders, and that's still the case today, where they own us 100%.
And that's it for part one of this chat. But before I step, once again, a big thank you to MyWay Blink for sponsoring this conversation. And cheers to Christiaan Steyn for sharing so generously. In part two, which drops next week, we explore the pros and pitfalls of inbred corporate startup innovation as Christiaan lets us in on what it's like to develop and launch an insurtech in the shadow of a large, successful incumbent. Now, he'll also paint a picture of what MyWay Blink knocking it out of the park looks like and how he and his team are responding to the pressure to kill it. That's all next week. Till then, take it easy, Africa.